Hi, Evelyn. How you doing?
Hello.
Do our fist bump, our elbow bump.
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us here at the War Memorial.
Thank you.
USA!
Evelyn McNeil Scott, it's a pleasure to have you join us for our Veteran Story program. We at the War Memorial are here to honor the dead and serve the living, and part of that is education, and this is part of our program of speaking with veterans, talking about their service, talking about their life, and also having it as an impact with our younger generation. And I know you've got quite a compelling story as a World War II veteran in the United States Navy. So what got you into service in World War II?
All right, I'll make it as brief as I can, but I was finishing high school. I've been learning to shorthand, typing, running an office, and everything, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a secretary. And I'm walking down a city street in Dothan, Alabama, and I see a big sign here, white sheet with black letters saying, Navy needs secretaries. And I said, oh my gosh, that's maybe the answer to my prayers. Do you mind if I go in and check with this person? They said, sure, no, go right ahead. He was a retired judge, and I told him what I was doing, what I wanted to do, and he says, you got time? I'll give you everything that you need to fill out anywhere you go. I've got it right here. Do you want to do it? I said, yes. So for a couple of hours, I sat there and filled out all these information, and did everything. He says, okay, now, you're ready to go to you want to go to the Navy. They need you in Washington, D.C. I said, that's great, because I just finishing high school, and I would like to. So that's the start. I was assigned to a building above the Pentagon, that was to do with the Navy and the Marines. This was BUPERS. This was more than I ever thought. And to meet my boss, who was Admiral Byrd, which I thought was dead a long time ago, because I had never heard about anything about him, but there he was. So our job right there, I was put to work. One of his things that he had to do was since we're connected now with the White House, so we're working with the White House, and the constituents are writing to their congressmen and senators, can John let him go home? He's needed at home. These letters were going to the congressmen and the senators.
So these are family members sending letters to their representatives.
These are family members back in the district of this senator or the congressman.
Yes.
Asking them, can Johnny come home? He needs to be home with us. They would get in touch with us where I worked. And where I worked, like on the wall here, was all the Navy. Every person in the Navy is his C-201 file. There it is. Over here, all the Marines in this country was listed here with their 201 files. So when these letters came to the congressmen, the senators, talking about their son or their daughter, this is where they would call us and say, will you come now and pick up these letters? And then you take them back to where you work and pull out those 201 files, and you've got something to work with. Before we can do anything, we have to hear from you. This was part of the job that I was doing. I was able to go into the west White House.
Oh, the West Wing of the White House.
The West Wing of the White House.
Okay.
It's all, the war is still on,
Yes.
It's not over. It's still going. And everything is locked up. So, and I wear this little bit, this is my tool, these are my what do you call it? Guys wear them.
Is that your
Yes.
original identification
This is the
card?
original.
Wow.
And this is like guys wear around their neck.
Their dog tags and their seal numbers.
This is what I wore,
Yes.
and this is how I could get through the gates that were locked to go into to the White House. That's where we would pick these letters up now, and we had to bring them back now where I work, and then we'd go to work. Everybody would have a job to do, and that was part of my job. We would go over these letters and study their 201 files. And when everything was checked, then we would now take them back to the White House.
Yes. Yep.
And they would now, their secretaries would now, they'd go to work, and then everything would be signed by the congressman or the senator, and they would go back to their constituents.
So during the war, you served under two administrations. You had Franklin Delano Roosevelt was still alive?
No.
He had passed?
No. He died in April.
Okay.
And
then
Truman was put right in
Harry S.
right
Truman.
away.
Okay.
Yeah, Truman is the guy now that does all the heavy work.
Yes.
He was the one. He was a nice guy. So
Did you actually have interactions with
the only thing
president?
is he was open. He was open on television.
Okay.
His daughter Margaret was everything to him, you know.
Yes.
And he'd get out and walk. And he didn't have to have a whole bunch of people. He'd just get out and walk with his hat.
He was
early
a World War I
morning,
veteran.
Early morning.
he was a World War I veteran. He'd
yes.
been a soldier
Yes, he
in the-
was.
Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
Yes, but he was still himself, you
Right.
know.
Right.
He's just a person that you'd meet on the street. You wouldn't know that he was the president of the United States.
So, about how old were you at this time?
18,
So you're
going
here.
out of 19.
18, 19, working in Washington, D.C.,
Mm-hmm.
Pentagon, White House.
Well, the Pentagon was there, but we were up there on the hill.
Yes.
I'll throw this in. If you've been there lately, you through these 3 spirals that go up,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
all steel. That was our building right there.
Okay.
And that building is now gone, and now a monument is where everybody wants to come and get their picture taken.
That's the Air Force. That's the Air Force monument.
Right, and
Yes.
and this is where we worked, and we could never see that because we were way up here on the hill, you know.
Okay.
But that's where we worked. That's where I met my husband to be. He was not working with me. He was in another section, but it was a beautiful. I say this is one of the best things that ever happened to me is that I always bring this in. I felt God led me there because there was nothing. My dad would say, "There's nothing here in this little town. You'll never find a job like that." This was just came to me, and I acted on it, and I did the right thing, and forever and ever I knew I did the right thing. Washington was safe, not like today. You can't walk down a street now today without maybe you might get shot. That was clean. I was listening to music. Frank Sinatra was just coming up, a stinky little string bean guy. Perry Como, all these people, Bing Crosby. Everybody can sing with the songs. I love that. I love music, so that meant a lot to me.
So, the war ends, and
Oh,
so your
no.
correspondence position is
That
no
war,
longer.
let me tell you, that picture that's forever and ever is the sailor that's kissing this lady. She worked with a hospital.
She was a nurse. Yep. She was in the.
She was a nurse, and that was the Navy's. But the first one was I was there was when the Germans surrendered.
Yes.
That was everybody's out in the streets in Washington D.C. Everybody was out there. Then 2 months to 3 months later, you know what happened? Because Truman had to make that big decision, and he had to do it.
Right.
And he had to let MacArthur go because MacArthur wanted to go back into it. And he said, "No, we've lost all of our boys. No, we're not going to do that again." So he went ahead and followed this program that was laid out, and that's what he did. He used these 2 cities in Japan with his A-bomb.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that's in August
And that's what
of
brought
45. Yeah.
Hirohito to, you might say, to his knees. He finally said, okay, if you will let me just be the prime minister in Tokyo, I will surrender.
So the admiral that you referenced earlier, Admiral Byrd, a hero, a national hero. He had been an explorer of the Antarctica and also flew the North Pole in the 20s and the 30s. And this is your boss. Mm-hmm. So on Victory over Japan Day, which is September 2nd, 1945.
That's right.
Where was your boss at the time?
He was invited to get down there on that deck with all the other guys, and they're all standing there on the edge. Somebody said to me, where were you when Japan was surrendering? And they're sitting there on the deck of the USS Missouri. Where were you? And I said, I was back in the office, and when our boss came back, here's the picture. He said, look. And my kids all said, Mom, you're part of this whole thing.
Yes, you are.
You know, and I said, I never thought about it. You know, you're doing your job, and everybody is so happy that the war is off, both now, because we were fighting two wars at once.
Yes.
But it came out all right, you know.
So women in the military, they're a smaller percentage of the makeup. Today it's about 15%. When you were a trailblazer because many women were not in the service, in line of service. World War II changed a lot of that. It took 2 acts of law to allow women to serve in uniform. What challenges did you find as a young woman serving in a time of war in pretty much a male-dominated institution? What challenges did you find?
It didn't bother me about that at all. We all had jobs. And I was so excited to be a part of this.
Yes.
There was no waves. There was just another lady that was also a secretary in that thing. Otherwise, we've got pictures of my group that handled all this. No, I just thought there's a reason for me being here. And because, coming from a little town and never going to be able to get a job like I was in my mind, I was just, I was going to have a job. I did not want to go and do like some of my friends, just get married. Go ahead, get married, go. I don't want that. I want a career.
Well, that's an interesting segment because you meet your husband, or husband-to-be.
That was later, yes.
Right, but he's from Milwaukee.
He's from a terrible cold place called Manitowoc.
Oh, Manitowoc, okay.
Wisconsin.
So, Wisconsin.
I never, where I came from, they couldn't even pronounce it, and I couldn't spell it, so.
But we're blessed because that's how you come to Wisconsin.
That's how I came to this God's country, yes.
Yes, and you start raising children.
Well, that's exactly. He right away was going to school.
Okay.
And I was going to start. My first child was born in '50, so I was a stay-at-home mom, raising 3 children, and I was helping him, with my typing, and
Yes.
I was helping him behind the scenes for him to go ahead, and he turned out to be one of the best teachers. I said, if you aren't the best teacher, I don't want to hear about it, because I'm doing all of this. He really was a good teacher, and anybody that knows about him knows what a great guy he was. And so we just had a wonderful 63 years is how long we were married. And today we have 6 great-grandchildren plus a lot of other grandchildren.
But none of your children knew of your service until
No.
they discovered something. How did that all happen? Because
Well, when I came to Wisconsin, to Manitowoc, they were not too pleased with me. I didn't talk like they did. I didn't act like they did. I didn't eat. I had never heard some of the food that they ate here. Felt like I was in another country. And I don't think they were very pleased with me because
Okay.
I just wasn't a drinker, and I wasn't this and I wasn't that. But I stuck with it, and I realized there's other people in the world that maybe aren't as that strict. The stake, it's down there and it's going to stay there, you know, in
Yeah.
Wisconsin. And how could I ever talk about where I was or who I was? I was somebody until I came to Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and I was nothing. So I have to tell you this. I tried to get a job at the White House Milk Company. This is before I was ever thinking of having a baby, but I wanted to help him. And I got all through with the paperwork and everything, the White House Milk Company. And then he says to me, "Are you married?" I said, "Yes." "Do you live with your husband?" "Yes." "Well, then we can't hire you." Just like that. What kind of a state is this? You know, that was how can you talk to somebody
Right.
of where I was?
After doing what you had accomplished during the
After
war.
that, and,
During the war.
and this went into a little picture album, and no one ever knew about it, and my husband never talked about it because we were busy, he was busy, and I didn't think about it anymore, and I was doing what I wanted to do, which was be there and raise my children. And then somebody, I don't know which one of the children, maybe my son, somebody, they found it and they took a picture of it. He enlarged this, and now everybody's got a picture about like this size on their dresser or of their mom
Yes.
as 18. And now they are grown up and they're saying, "Why didn't you ever talk about this?" And I said, "Who is going to listen to me?" I came into a place where they'd never heard of a southern girl living near them or with them. There was nothing. So I just didn't do anything. For all these years, I came back to I came back to Wisconsin now because my husband's been gone about 11 years. And I was doing fine out in California. I loved the weather and everything. But my children said, "Mom, you got to get closer to us. We're, here and we're there. And we want to be there when you start things happening. But we can't always do that." Well, they worked on me for 7 years, and then I said, "Okay, all right." I realized,
They wanted you closer
but
to.
it took me 7 years to say that I would do that.
Right.
But I realized what they're thinking now. They're worrying about me
Right.
and all that. And I think the time is up. But
Well, I have a question that young ladies, 18, 19, which was your age at the time of the war when you went in, what lesson can you share? I know generational, it's very different, but there's got to be some lesson that you can share with a younger lady, a younger woman going through the decision-making process that you had to go through. What life lesson could you give them?
I would tell you, one of the blessings that I had growing up was grandparents. The grandparents, John Archibald McNeil, was a businessman, came into that area where I was born, and that's where he met his wife, and one of his children happened to be my dad. But one day he was talking to me, and I, being the only girl with 4 boys, I was always in the kitchen washing dishes or something. And he'd say, "Would you get me a cup of coffee, Evelyn?" I said, "Sure." I might have been 8 or 9. He'd pour the cup into the saucer and blow and get it cool enough that he could drink it. Did anybody ever see that?
Oh, yeah.
And I remembered that. And he said, "Now, Evelyn, I've already told your brothers that you're going to be the lily of the field." And they laugh, And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" Yeah. Well, I just said, you're going to be the lily in the field. And he says, always remember, now this goes for anybody that's listening, know who you are. Just remember that who you are and where you are from, where you grew up, what is your name? Be proud of your name. Just know who you are, and you'll never, ever be sorry. And believe me, that is still with me to this very day. I knew when I went to Washington, D.C., I knew who I was. I wasn't out flighty. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just there because I wanted to have a job. And with all the people that I met, I will never, ever be able to tell you how many wonderful people I met. Beautiful people from all over the world. And, you know, I said, what you see is, what does it say? What you see is...
What you see is what you get.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to pretend that I was anybody else. And I'm working in that area with these wonderful people. I can't tell you any more than that any young person has to have a dream or they want to do something. It's not that somebody wants you to do it and puts you together. You've got to know, or you've got to work. And it does take time to get there, but believe me, I've just met the most wonderful people all my life, and I still do. I still do.
Well,
and I'm so proud of my family, you know.
we're honored to have you as part of this Veteran Story program. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your service to our nation during a time of war, and what you've done since and carried on and raised a beautiful family and helping the next generation with this program. And I know that you were here for the Field of Flags as we were
Yes.
planting them a few months back on.
And there's a lady that was responsible for me even being here. She was the one, I'll just tell you this last minute thing. She said, but I want everybody that's been in service, please put your name on this piece of paper, sign, where were you working, how long were you there, and pass it around, and then we'll be able to get all the veterans together, and one day we'll have it on a tripod, and we'll have your name or name something out, and you can be proud of that. Well, they started sending that around, you know, and this one man, the man was sitting over here, and he's writing his name, and he looks at me, and he said, oh, this is not for you. And he passed it to somebody in the next row. So the next day, I went to this lady. I said, do you have any women here that was ever in service? No. Well, I said, well, you do now. And that's the start of me even being here right now, because it was through her that she got the word out that here we have somebody that was in World War II.
Yes.
And she's not saying anything. And I dug this out, and I said, well, here it is. There's my dog tags and everything. So that's where it started. And I'm very I want you to know that I do love Wisconsin. I've made it through.
You've warmed up. You've warmed up to our cold winters.
I'm still working on that. But
Evelyn,
thank you very much for
Evelyn, thank you so much.
For inviting me today. And I hope I'll be able to see this somewhere from a distance to see if that really me.
Yes. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a
appreciate it.
joy meeting you, all of you.